Today I'm in Houston, Texas, and in this video we're going to discuss the pros and cons of living in the largest city in the Lone Star State. There's a lot to love in regards to living in Houston. Like right now, I'm in one of my favorite neighborhoods in the state of Texas, River Oaks. However, Houston also has a ton of cons, which we'll cover as well, so stay tuned. Soto, a local real estate broker right here in the state of Texas. And if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as we do weekly videos talking all about living, working, and playing right here in the Lone Star State, as well as we tour some of the best real estate listings on the market. Today, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of living in Houston, Texas. What a beautiful day. It's been raining, the clouds have parted, and the sun is out, and I am in one of my favorite neighborhoods in the entire state of Texas. Check this out. Look at that driveway. Holy moly, mother of God. These homes are crazy. And I mean that in a good way. They are absolutely beautiful. Jeez, I would love to live here. Anyway, moving on. Let's start with some quick facts in regards to Houston. Houston is the fourth largest city in the United States and is the largest city in the state of Texas, with the population of 2.3 million people right here in the city limits. And the greater metro area of Houston is going to have over 7.1 million people. So when people say everything is bigger in Texas, it is an absolute fact. Now, let's enjoy the weather, take a walk, look at these mega mansions, and we're going to start with the pros. Okay, let's get right into it with the first pro of living right here in Houston, Texas, and that's going to be the cost of living. The majority of the people that are relocating across the country and around the world typically start with the number one criteria, which is going to be the cost of living. And if you're trying to save money on your day-to-day expenses, Houston is going to be a great place. As a matter of fact, the cost of living in Houston is less than cities in the state of Texas when compared to Austin or Dallas, and it's actually lower than the majority of the cities across the country, especially when you compare it to other large cities such as Chicago, LA, and New York. There is no comparison. The cost of living right here in Houston is going to be 2% lower than the national average, so you can save money on groceries, day-to-day expenses, healthcare as well. So if you want to save money, you can do it right here in Houston, which is odd that I'm actually saying that when I'm in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the country. I don't know what I'm doing here, guys. This is not the neighborhood to save money, but oh my God, just look around. It is absolutely stunning. But moving on, if you want to save money, you don't have to live right here in River Oaks. There are plenty of real estate and housing options throughout the city, whether you're a first-time home buyer and you have a tight budget. If you're looking for a single-family home, a condo, townhome, there's going to be a plethora of real estate options right here in Houston, Texas. Home prices in Houston are continuing to rise at double-digit rates, according to the Greater Houston Partnership. The median sale price of single-family homes in Houston recently topped $350,000, an increase of over 40% compared to 2 years ago. Although home prices are rising, the cost of living index for housing estimates to be 83.7% of the national average, which is less than the average U.S. city. Now, if you're relocating to Houston and you're not ready to purchase a home, whether you're a first-time home buyer or you're ready to purchase your mega mansion, don't worry. There's plenty of rental options right here in the city. The average rental rate for a one-bedroom is going to be around $1,200, and obviously you can find something much less or a lot more expensive depending on your needs, wants, and desires. So plenty of rentals right here in the city as well. Okay, moving on to the second pro of living right here in Houston, and that's going to be jobs and employment opportunities. So if you're wanting to purchase a mega mansion like the one behind me, you could probably find the job, business, or career to do just that right here in Houston. The economy in Houston and throughout the state of Texas is booming. We are so blessed to live right here in the Lone Star State. So whatever industry that you're in, you can definitely scale your career and take it to the next level right here in Houston, Texas. Metro Houston created 31,000 jobs in May 2022, coming in well above the 20-year pre-pandemic average. In fact, job growth in Houston has come in above the pre-pandemic average in 9 of the past 12 months. Employment in Houston exceeds pre-pandemic levels in 12 sectors, including science and technical services, arts and entertainment, and professional services. Oil and gas, aerospace, healthcare, and manufacturing are all major industries that keep the economy in Houston booming. You can expect to find a good amount of work available in the energy industry. The city is also home to the world's largest medical complex, and all those living in Houston are certainly proud of it. Okay, another great pro of living right here in Houston, Texas, as I'm in downtown Houston right now, enjoying the beautiful August weather in Texas, which is odd to say. But let's move on to the next pro, and that's going to be diversity. Houston is an international city, and people from around the world reside right here in Houston. There's always a lot of festivals going on, whether it's Martin Luther King, Mardi Gras, Japan Festival, Cinco de Mayo, whatever it might be, you will hear languages spoken that you've never heard before. As I was walking down the streets of downtown Houston, I've heard numerous languages being spoken that I've never heard before. So if you want diversity and you want to be around people from other cultures and enjoy their cuisine, obviously, as we know, Tex-Mex, Mexican food is the best, but you can definitely find people from all around the world, and it's a beautiful thing when you live in a city that's so diverse like Houston, Texas. Okay, moving on to the next pro of living right here in Houston, and that's going to be things to do in entertainment. As we stated earlier, Houston is a massive city, the 4th largest in the United States. So whatever it is that you're into or whatever it is that you want to do, you can find it right here in Houston, Texas, starting with the professional sports teams. If you're into the NBA like myself, you have the Houston Rockets. You also have the NFL, Houston Texans, the MLB, Houston Astros. There are a ton of other sporting activities that you can watch, whether it's college as well. Plenty of sporting options right here in the city of Houston, as well as Houston's numerous museums and theaters. The city's relatively compact downtown area includes the Theater District, home to the renowned Houston Grand Opera, the Johnson Space Center, Downtown Aquarium, and the Houston Zoo are all great places for a day of family fun too. Or there's always the beach. I say the beach kind of tongue-in-cheek. I prefer to go to a nearby lake. That's a con, but we're not covering the cons right now. Point being is, you can find as many entertainment options as you want to find. Like I said, I'm into sports, definitely find that. Or if you're young and want to turn up and stay up all night listening to loud music, people dancing, popping bottles, whatever it is that you're into, Houston, Texas has you covered. Another item under things to do is going to be shopping. Since Houston is the 4th largest city in the U.S., it's also known as the fashion capital of the South. As you can see, wearing a white tee, I don't know too much about fashion. However, the good people right here in the city of Houston are all about fashion. There's numerous areas that you can do shopping throughout the city, whether you're looking for vintage clothing or high-end fashion. You can find whatever it is that you're looking for. I'm here in the Houston Galleria Mall, which is massive, has over 375 stores. And when I compare it to the Dallas Galleria Mall, what can I say? There is no comparison. The Houston Galleria Mall wins hands down. So if you're into fashion, you'll definitely fit right here in Houston. Another pro of living right here in Houston is going to be the green spaces. There's over 50,000 acres of parks right here in the Houston area, which is a big difference, especially when you compare it to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. When I'm in North Texas, I feel like I'm mainly in a concrete jungle. All you see is paved roads and buildings. Love the difference when I come to Houston, when I'm coming down 45 South, passing the woodlands, you just see these massive green trees all the way into Houston. Most of these neighborhoods throughout the city as well have these massive mature trees. It looks absolutely amazing. Very different than when you compare it to other parts in the state of Texas. Okay, we just discussed a few of the pros of living right here in Houston. Now let's move on to the cons, and there's going to be several. As we always state in these pro and con videos, no city's perfect, and neither is going to be Houston. Starting with the first con, which is going to be the weather. The weather here in Houston, especially during the summer, is horrific. They put the H-town, which the H stands for humidity, and as bad as the rest of the state of Texas is, every time I come to our Houston office, I feel that humidity is way worse than any other city right here in the state of Texas. So weather is going to be a major issue, especially for someone like myself that's very hot-natured during the summertime. Unfortunately, Houston's Gulf Coast location leaves it prone to natural disasters as well. Hurricane season brings the threat of flooding, as we saw in August 2017 with the Hurricane Harvey. In fact, the large coastal city ranks amongst the most disaster-prone cities in the country. If you're living in Houston, just make sure to buy flood insurance and have an emergency kit on hand. So as you can see, it's not only about the summer heat, unlike in Dallas. The major issues in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Midland are just going to be the summer months with the occasional hail and sometimes tornado. But here, the city's prone to a lot of additional weather threats. Okay, let's move on to the second con of living right here in Houston. This is going to be a great example for you. There are some homes on that back road, beautiful estates, just absolutely stunning. We have a high-rise luxury apartment building. There's a shopping center right here, an office building across the street. If you want to go to the strip club and make it rain, as the kids say, probably 2 blocks over. If you want to purchase a gun out of a pawn shop, just walk across the street and you can ask God to forgive you for your sins. 2 blocks over is probably going to be a church. So the zoning here in Houston, or lack thereof, is very, very odd. I don't understand it. It makes it for a very unique way to live in a lot of these areas. Okay, let's move on to the con as I'm drinking an iced coffee, because we know from the first con, it gets hot as a son of a gun right here in Texas, especially Houston with the humidity. The con is going to be traffic, and there's a ton of it. Houston is a rapidly growing city. All the suburbs are expanding and growing at record numbers as well. So wherever you go in the greater Houston area, you're going to have to deal with a ton of traffic. And worst of all, Houston probably has the worst drivers out of any city in the state of Texas. They don't know how to drive right here in H-Town, but it's okay. It is what it is. However, if you're trying to get in and around the city, be prepared to deal with traffic. Also, depending on where you go, you're going to have to deal with parking issues. As we were in the Galleria last night, couldn't find a parking spot. And there's thousands of parking spots. Couldn't find one. Literally had to drive around for 15 minutes before I threw my hands in the air and decided to just valet park. I got tired of trying to find a parking spot. So traffic and parking is going to be an issue right here in Houston. Okay, moving on to the con of living in Houston, and that's going to be taxes. Everybody's favorite subject, and it's going to be no exception here in Houston. While we don't have any state income tax, which sounds great in theory, Houston's going to make up for it in sales tax, I can assure you. Most purchases will carry an 8.25 sales tax, one of the higher sales tax in the country. While Texas also has no state property tax, homeowners still pay property tax to local units. According to Smart Asset, Texas residents pay some of the highest property taxes in the country. In Harris County, the average rate of property tax is 1.94%. This is well above the national average of 1.07%. Based on a home value of $250,000, homeowners in Harris County pay an average of $4,850 per year in property taxes. Okay, moving on to the next con right here in Houston, and that's going to be the public education. Houston Independent School District is going to have around 197,000 students with a student-teacher ratio of 19-1. What can I say? It's definitely not one of the best ISDs in the state of Texas. However, it's not the worst. I would consider it average most cases. Suburbs such as the Woodlands and other parts of the greater metro Houston area are going to offer much better schools. However, it's just going to depend if the ISD is a factor for you. Maybe you don't have kids, so it's not that significant, or maybe you're going to send your kids to private school. There's always a lot of options. However, I have 2 boys, so to me that's going to be a big con, and I want to provide the best quality education I can for my children without having to spend $20,000 to $30,000 a year each to send them to private school. So as far as I'm concerned, Houston Independent School District is definitely going to be a con. According to the state scores, 45% of students are at least proficient in math and 41% in reading, according to niche.com. Houston ISD was rated a B-. I hope you enjoyed the video in regards to the pros and cons of living in Houston, Texas. If you're thinking about relocating to Houston or the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, San Antonio, Austin, Midland, or throughout the state of Texas, my team and I would love to assist you with your next real estate transaction. And as always, I'll see you on the next video.